Well, if you came over here from the prediction show, Dennis wanted to come by and say a few things. So we might as well come on to the main show. Welcome to Wicked Crazy Pinfalls. I said this a few minutes ago to Dennis. Hey guys, how you doing?
First of all, thank you for having me here. I'm glad I could class up the joint and that you didn't add that 2-bit second chance loser Drew to the show because oh my gosh, he had to beg his way back into the tournament. And I don't know if Drew listened to my prediction show, which by the way, I haven't lost yet, Drew. Imagine that. The head of the table is what, 1-2? King or 1-1 now? That's not really much of a head and table when I'm about to go 2-0. So, Drew, congrats for getting back in the tournament. But my only mission, I don't even care if I win. I want to knock you out twice in a row. I want to be the guy that takes to the table and puts him at the kiddie table. So,
Spoiler.
yeah. So get in the back
Damn.
seat, buddy, because I'm about to take you to school.
Damn. All I gotta say is damn. It's going to be fun to watch nonetheless. I mean, especially the way things are panning out right now. I mean, in the next round, because we're going through this right now, there is a first ever triple threat in the next round going on at Survivor Series. So that'll be interesting. Maggie in Survivor Series, you guys kicking off the next round, and JJ in Full Gear. We had 2 matches starting in the next round, with one of the matches for the next round started today. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be fun. And, Drew has a long road to go because he still has at least 4 matches before he ends up in the same area as you. So, but still, it's good to talk about all these things anyways. So, Crown Jewel happened. There you go. So what were you guys' expectations watching this? I know, Dennis, you didn't catch much of it, but you read some of the results like I did. But what were your expectations going into this, the way it was setting up?
I caught the highlights, and I will say that it was better than I expected. I don't expect much from the Crown Jewels. I just feel like not. Let's take the politics out, and people boycott it, and they have every right to. And that's not why I watched it. One of the things that I liked about it is it gave me that old school sports feel where, you know what, when there's a baseball playoff or a daytime hockey game or something in the afternoon, it makes that day feel exciting. There's a buzz that there's a 1 o'clock, wrestling show. And whether you watched it on your phone at work or, you got home early or you took the day off, it made the day a random Thursday in the middle of October feel a little bit special. I was more excited about the buzz. I thought the show was okay. It was better than I thought, and it made the day even better because I went out of my way to try to watch it while I was at work, and it felt special.
For me, though, it was the way art is that once it starts getting busy, it's kind of hard to catch anything. So I try reading up on a lot of the highlights that I can, or if it's already on YouTube, I try catching some of that. But for me, a lot of the things that I've been reading on about is saying that the match of the day was actually the Hell in the Cell match, which is an interesting perspective because considering how that match was being developed. Where do you see like Edge and Seth going from here at this point? Both of you.
They're moving on. This is the
Aaron,
final. This is the final match between them. They're moving on to maybe they'll team up a Survivor Series, possibly if they do a Team Raw versus SmackDown. But I think this is the final match. This is the final time they'll face each other in the story. A few years from now, it's done. I'm just saying it's done. I don't know where Edge moves on from now, but I don't know where Seth moves on. Maybe Damon Priest, maybe for the U.S. title, maybe with Big E, because Big E has a lot of competition for the Raw, the WWE Championship on Raw. For Edge, there's a lot of guys in the Raw he could feud with too.
I mean, could you see them setting up him and E for a feud at some point, or do you see like him going against someone else? Because for me, a name that is could be subtly talked about would be McIntyre versus Edge, and that would be an interesting because you can go back to a lot of the stuff with Edge about how Edge was a certain way towards McIntyre, or just talk about their backstory history when he was the chosen one and just worked that way up. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff they can do for Edge, but where do you see him going, Dennis?
Man, I wish that he had more of a real direction. It just feels like and it almost has a CM Punk feeling where it's kind of directionless right now. You don't know, you want him to be in something more substantial than just feels like he's jumping around wrestling guys he wants to wrestle, which is great if that's what the storyline is. But it seems like they're trying to build legitimate storylines out of, I want to wrestle this guy. Now put me in a program with him. All right, how are we going to get there? It doesn't seem like there's any lines that connects A, B, and C, and sometimes he jumps over to F. And it sits the wrong way with me. And I really think that's some of the problem WWE's having right now is they're not good at connecting the dots. They have still one of the best rosters in all of wrestling. I mean, it used to be the best roster. Of course, AEW now, let's, 1A and 1B. But that roster is so amazing from SmackDown to Raw to NXT that they should not be having these problems.
I mean, they need to not make some of these stories like very noticeable. Like in like a lot of the stories were clear cut. Here they are. This is what it'd be. It was nice to see like a match like this where you didn't know how it's going to go and how the ending of this match is. It basically throws back, no pun intended, to like using other people's finishers and to clear a point that they are moving on to something different.
This is how Hell in a Cell should have been used. Not as a pay-per-view, but as a way to end a feud or something. That's how Hell in a Cell should be used. Get rid of the pay-per-view. Because to me, that ruins the luster of Hell in a Cell. This is how it should be used.
I mean, who do you think gets in the cell next? Because there's a lot of people you could have a Hell in a Cell match for coming up, especially since there's supposedly no TLC this year. So, I mean, where do you see some of these matches going? Like, obviously, they're going to have Roman and Brock keep going.
Yeah.
But do you see, like, something happening between now and after Survivor Series? Because, Roman's next big thing is if they're doing Survivor Series right up the gate after this and setting it up, it's going to be Big E.
I don't hate the idea of a title versus title match, but in WWE, they don't do that kind of thing. For the most part, they're very clear cut with their heels versus faces storylines. But the problem is, once again, everybody just seems to be floating around. I don't know if they even know what direction they want to go. I think Roman Reigns right now is by far the real bright spot in this company. But you know what? I'd like to see right now Roman versus Seth. I think where they both are, and we've seen these two fight multiple times on different shows on different programs, but this one would feel different because we're just seeing the best version of Roman Reigns that we've ever seen.
We've never seen a heel Roman Reigns versus like a babyface Seth Rollins.
Right.
They're usually either face at the same time or it's reversed. Like when Roman Reigns is a babyface, Seth Rollins is a babyface. When Roman Reigns is a babyface, Seth Rollins is a heel. We never seen the reverse.
I mean, do you see the possibility of a heel versus heel match where something's at stake? I mean, Brock literally shouldn't have been like the babyface. He should have been the heel, but have both of them go after it. Roman could be in between like they do with Charlotte, but I mean, it makes more sense to play to Brock's strengths than just his weaknesses. He's gonna be on SmackDown. He's gonna be on SmackDown tomorrow, Brock. I can never see Brock as just like that baby face anything. He's usually that guy that comes in and just to take Roman's on. He basically comes in and destroys everybody. And wins. And it's just a bitter pill to swallow to see him like lose a match and be a babyface and look just lifting the ref up is what I was reading. He lifted up and just try to get him for the pin. I mean, come on now. Brock's the one that usually beats the crap out of everybody. He's like a wrecking ball, and now you're just demeaning what he is.
Well, you know what? Let me jump in here and say this. And you made some great points, but once again, I don't think the WWE has done a great job since John Cena's took 18 suplexes and lost in shocking fashion that made all of our jaws drop. And they legitimately built John Cena up where we all thought John Cena was going to come in and beat Brock Lesnar. And since that moment, Brock Lesnar has really been a beast. And this might be the first legitimate competitor that they built up that we go, holy crap, Roman Reigns has a chance to beat him here. Everybody else, we went, nah, there's no way. And even the crappy, Goldberg match where there was no way Goldberg should have won it. But they gave it to him. None of us felt like Goldberg had a chance to win this. So I like where this is going. And I wouldn't be shocked if this thing keeps extending because of shenanigans. And yes, I just said shenanigans.
It's definitely going to extend. Based on what happened to the end, it's obvious it's going to extend. I don't know if it's like as I said like a minute ago. Brock said he's going to appear on SmackDown tomorrow. I don't know if it like extend to like the pay-per-view at the beginning of the new year or Royal Rumble, or like the rumor suggests a third WrestleMania match between them.
I wouldn't want that. That's like doing 50-50 but make it like a higher stakes kind of thing. This is a match where you don't need the title belt in this whole situation. It's the same thing with Rock. If Rocky wanted to come in and go to a work Mania, it wouldn't probably be for a title. It'd be for higher stakes.
I don't think he'd work it anyways. I mean, Dwayne Johnson's a massive movie star now. He would come in once again in a way to build Roman Reigns up or to build up that whole bloodline storyline.
I mean, and that would be awesome. But a rubber match with Brock at Mania, I mean, for me, I wouldn't be interested in it. But that's just me. I mean, a lot of people have checked out too.
Would you be interested if there was a Paul Heyman on the line or something like that? Because we all keep wondering, Brock's a Paul Heyman guy. Paul Heyman is just following Roman Reigns around.
Despite the result tonight, like on the result, right? Like Roman Reigns won. But Michael Cole did say, as Roman Reigns was posing with the title with the Usos, he did say, who was that belt meant for? Who did he throw that belt for? When they were going to use it during the match, when they had a tug of war, and I think it was Michael Cole said, who did he tend to throw that belt for? Was it for Roman or was it for Brock? So even though Roman still won, is Paul Heyman still loyal to Roman?
It's all about the as some famous singer said, it's all about the money.
But I would be more than happy if there was a Paul Heyman swerve here. Brock Lesnar walks out with the championship, and now until WrestleMania, Roman Reigns has to chase it. I would be happy if there was a Paul Heyman swerve. Lesnar lost it and then spent this whole time chasing after it into WrestleMania. But in order to keep the storyline going, Paul Heyman is the linchpin here.
Yeah, it makes sense to have a Heyman as a linchpin, but also it'd be even awesome, as bad as it sounds, is to have Roman chase after Lesnar for a title and make it seem like he's lost something in his mind, like a screw loose went on, just like saying like something happened to Roman where he absolutely is agitated that he doesn't have it. And just like any other siblings or family, let the Usos pick on him because we could be like, see, look who has the titles. Look who's the head of the family. And it's like that little, older brother, little brother thing where you dig on them and just keep doing it until they just flip out. I would like to see Roman get to that point where he realizes he is at the point of no return and he has to show a side he's never shown.
Too soon for that, because I like cool, calm, collected businessman Roman Reigns. I don't think we've explored every aspect of this personality he's displaying right now. I would like to see him either, kick Heyman out in the middle of the match, Heyman cost him the championship, and then Reigns bring in a more of a Samoan attaché or whatever you want to call him, and build that bloodline dynasty off that, and then you can see him chasing it, but doing it in a manner where I got screwed, and I will take it out on you as we go on. I think you save that crazy snap thing for a little bit later down the road when it starts getting a little stale. But I think we're far from Roman Reigns being stale right now.
Yeah, no, Roman's it's like a Krispy Kreme donut when you eat it, and you just sit back and enjoy it.
I just hope a SmackDown they build a strong enough babyface that could go up against Roman, because that's what I'm looking at SmackDown. Besides Drew McIntyre, I cannot think of anybody on SmackDown who I could see like taking the title off Roman if they don't go down the Brock road.
And I hope I don't mean to cut you off there, but I hope Roman hangs on to this belt for another year if they keep it, because you're right, they haven't built anybody up. But I think that could be the storyline of he owns the show. This is his show, and then they have to export somebody from Raw to take him on, and then off to the races.
Do you see him breaking Bruno's record at some point if
No.
they keep the title on him?
I mean, if there's a guy to do it, it would have been him or John Cena. And if John Cena didn't do it,
Did he?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
Did he break Punk's record?
I think in a heartbeat, everybody broke. I'm shocked they didn't get Santino to break Punk's record. That's how bad they not like Punk there.
I think Hogan had the modern day record, right? Like from the 80s?
The modern day, I believe.
Yeah.
But I will say this. If there's anybody to do it, it's Roman Reigns, and that just adds to what he's been doing. I don't think Roman Reigns still gets enough respect from wrestling fans from what he's doing, and I think it's a really crappy situation for him, because 10 years from now we will be discussing where does Roman Reigns rank among some of the greatest champions, and people are like, well, he was a champion during a crappy age of wrestling, or the down years of WWE when he really carried that company.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me, it's going to be interesting to see where it all ends up, because when history is all said and done with Roman, I think what ends up happening is they're going to talk about how he carried a company during a hard time. They'll line him up with Drew for the most part during the beginning of the COVID era, saying that they did what they could do with what they got. And even though like towards the tail end of 2020, Roman showed up, he's literally put that title on his back and that company on his back, and it's made it a lot difficult for other people to come up with as faces. But it's interesting to see like the dialect he does and all that stuff and all that acting, the lessons he had because of doing, the Hobbs and Shaw movie. I think it's helping him because he's got that kind of swagger. Like if you remember the picture when they did Mania and Vince is out there saying, "Welcome back, we missed you." He was the only one not in wrestling gear. He was in a suit and a tie and all that stuff. He was ready for business. And having this persona now, and he's tapping into it, he's no longer Joe when he's out there. He's just the guy who literally looks like, this version of The Rock, just like that real chill, real guy that everybody gravitates to personality-wise.
It's very Chris Jericho-esque when Jericho went into his wearing a suit and the big words character. I believe it was after his face run.
When he came back as a face, it was like Shawn Michaels. When he started feuding Shawn Michaels, that's just what happened. Yeah.
Yes, and this has that written all over it. And you know what? I can't say he's doing it better. He's doing it just as good.
I mean, it's good to see like people taking a shine to Roman compared to, the Shield version Roman, where it's like they were trying to push him down each other's throat, and then all of a sudden they don't appreciate some of the matches he had with Styles and stuff like that in that part of his career were amazing, and it was underappreciated at that point compared to where he is now, because this is what everybody wanted.
A lot of people underrate his ring work. Like a lot of people, he's very underrated. I think as his ring work. I mean, look, he's not the best, but he's still pretty good in the ring, Roman.
But you know what, Aaron, and I'm glad you said this, because we recorded a podcast that will come out in 2 weeks where it was me, Lars, and Darren McCarty, and we're sitting there and we're discussing WWE. And I don't think it's fair to talk about any WWE superstars' ring work, because It's all the same. The difference between AEW right now and WWE is you can turn on AEW and every match is different. They have different styles. Everything is different. The flow is in pace. But you turn on WWE and everything is the same pace, same match style. You bring all these phenomenal athletes in from all around the world. You build a phenomenal roster, but you take away what made them popular on the indies is their ability to tell a story in the ring, and you supplement it with your mathematical equation of what a match is that is equal to every single match. And man, it's hard to tell if a wrestler is good or bad in the WWE because every match is the same.
And the thing is that it's kind of like eating a cake, your favorite cake, and just it's gone bad, but you're still going to eat it. It's just, you're regurgitating the same premise over again. And to me, that's like a slap in the face to us, because it's like you spent that multi-million-dollar facility down there in Florida and you're reproducing the same type of people over and over again. I mean, Braun Breaker is that name's horrible, but the guy as a person, as a character, they're allowing him to grow and learn and stuff like that, compared to like seeing the same 50-50 match like Naomi and Sonya, but interference and Sonya wins and stuff. It's just, give me put AEW into WWE's roster, and you literally have, and I hate to say this, and I'm old enough to remember, it's the Attitude Era version where it was just like anything could happen, any unpredictable thing could happen. Hell, Ken Shamrock beating The Rock for the IC title, keep beating the crap out of Rock, and then The Rock keeps the IC title at WrestleMania 14. That stuff is fun to watch because you don't know where it's going to go. Some of these matches, a lot of people are predicting them right before it happens because you could see what happens 5 steps ahead than, waiting to find out at the sit of your teeth.
But you know what? Yeah. You brought up the Attitude Era, and we look back at it with rose-colored glasses, but a lot of the Attitude Era was shit.
The wrestling was the worst.
The wrestling was the worst. Most of the storylines sucked. And every once in a while, you got these great storylines that we still hang on to today. And, you look at Steve Austin's time in the Attitude Era, very minute if you really do the math on how much he was healthy or didn't take his ball and go home, and he was actually on top. Wasn't that long during the Attitude Era. So I think I hate that comparison because we look back at the Attitude Era and we're just like, that was the greatest wrestling ever. It sucked. It all sucked in the ring.
But still, some of these stories are like a lot better from the Attitude Era than they are now.
WCW wrestling was better than Attitude Era.
I'd rather take ECW stories than know what's going on right now.
I think the difference, and it was the start of the 24-hour wrestling news cycle where they have to have storylines keep going and going and going and going, and it wasn't drawn out. And that's the problem with this last 10 years of wrestling is no one's going to remember it because there is no storyline that lasted more than 3 weeks. And if there is, you forget about it because it goes by so quick. And that's what made the 80s last so long. I mean, when you think of Macho Man Randy Savage, you probably think of maybe 3 or 4 amazing storyline moments, right? And that's
the Snake with Jake the Snake with the Snake. That's one of them.
Mega Maniacs and Ricky Steamboat.
See, I mean, and he had
him and Hogan and stuff like that.
But those storylines lasted a year plus, and they'd separate for a moment and come back, and that's what made it so believable. But once again, we look and we think back and go, man, Macho Man Randy Savage, he had all these great storylines. I only remember 3 or 4. I think that's what the majority of us remember. And
I remember the one at DDP. The DDP one at WCW was very good.
Yeah, but I think that was kind of the back end into the 90s and not so much. That might be the exception to the rule, and I agree with you. Still one of the best, and I loved it. But you think Macho Man, WWE, WCW at that time started to change it. So maybe that falls kind of under the Attitude Era. Look at me trying to get out of this.
You can find
it-
some in the Attitude Era. I mean, you can find some good ones in the Attitude Era.
There are exceptions to the rules, and
Yeah.
there were good storylines in the Attitude Era. I'm not saying the whole Attitude Era was shit, but if you go through and you don't YouTube it and maybe start watching it from Raw to finish on the network or whatever, the Peacock, you will find most of those Raw shows were not that great,
No.
and some of those storylines were horrible.
And you know, people
Yeah.
complain about opening promos now take like 10 minutes. If you watch Raw back then, they're like half an hour long.
Oh my God. What was it? I watched one the other day and it was like DX versus the Hart Foundation. And I was like an hour in going, what, man, this is not that great.
It for me, like one of the stories in the Attitude Era that was really good was Kane and the Undertaker, because look what happened. It created, even though Taker was on his way to be where he is now, for Glenn Jacobs, it basically changed his entire life. And there's not many stories like that. I mean, you know, Mick Foley having so many personas and being even if the stories were not that great, you appreciated how hard they worked at it. That's what mainly it is. And it just feels like with today's product, it especially mostly in the Raw, other than the last few weeks, it felt like nobody really cared. Nobody cared about their work as much, and as much as they say they do. Your actions speak louder than your promos. Let's just say that. And you want to have that feeling. I want to be informed and entertained. I don't want to be slapped in the face over and again over being 50-50 matches. That's some of these matches that they did in the Attitude Era. Some of them were 50-50 matches, but a lot of them were original matches that you got almost every once in a while on Raw. I mean, Foley versus Austin, Rock versus Hunter for the first time. And I'm not talking about the Game Hunter, the Blue Blood Triple H. Then you had like Sable versus just Luna Vachon, stuff like that. Matches, even though we look back today and be like, wow, that was stupid, you appreciate it because you got a lot of first time matches that you never thought. I mean, Mark Henry, the Nation Domination versus DX in a lot of it, like Mike Tyson at a WrestleMania. I mean, it's all these things. Yeah, some of these stories and matches were really bad at that point. We are probably glorifying it now that you're saying it, because now I think of it. It's just, for me, I like having like first opportunity matches instead of having, Drew McIntyre versus Big E, match 15, and it's 50-50. Who will win the title?
Wasn't Attitude Era like that though? Like everybody had like rematches in Attitude Era, and like we
it
complained about it. Same in WCW, everybody had rematches.
But you know what? Here's the thing. And comparing the Attitude Era to now, like we're doing, I will say this. People are counting the WWE out. They're dead. Their product sucks. But just remember, WWE, Vince McMahon, undefeated when their back is against the wall. Never count them out.
Mm-hmm.
Vince McMahon is smart enough that when it affects his money, and listen, we can talk about how bad the product is, but he has $2 billion TV deals. He sold his whole catalog, sold or rented it over the Peacock for another $1 billion. He's making $1 billion deals left and right. So something is going right here, whether we're happy or not. But the second when that bottom line starts to show, oh man, we're losing people, that's when they're going to turn the switch. And that's when they're going to look at what AEW is doing. They're going to copy it and do it better than AEW. And they've done it before, and they'll do it again.
That's what they did with WCW. WCW turned to reality based, right? Like when WCW started to have the turn, they turned to reality based. Like Bischoff was like, we don't want this garbage shit, like Dungeon of Doom stuff like that. We don't want that anymore. We want reality based with NWO. WWE, even though they had characters like Kane, still Undertaker, Mankind, they kind of turned to reality based too. And that's what. And he took. Yeah, I think he took some inspiration from ECW. Yeah, I agree. When his competition, if AEW gets to a point where it's consistently beating WWE, that's when Vince McMahon is at his best. Because if he didn't because he was close. Like WCW was legitimately that close to ruining Vince McMahon. He was done. But Bischoff warned Tony Khan not to get too cocky. Not to get too cocky with Vince.
Yeah, and it's true. And listen, I'm gonna name drop here. I know Tony Khan. He's a good guy. I talked to him. He is the most famous wrestling fan on earth. And I know what he's doing. And he's doing the one thing Eric Bischoff couldn't do. And it took him a long time to do it. Is he just wants WWE to acknowledge their existence. And the second WWE acknowledges AEW's existence, AEW becomes a bona fide competitor. The second WWE looks down, depending on where you see them, looks over, down, up, around, that's when there's a true competition. And I like what Tony Khan's doing. It's not that he's getting cocky. He's just saying, hey, listen, you know what? And he's not wrong. I mean, his Ted Turner comments, if Ted Turner had 1% wrestling knowledge, WCW would still have been there because you would not have
wanted to beat Vince. He hated Vince. He just wanted to beat Vince. That's why he bought the WCW, because he did not like Vince. That's the only reason.
And he put horrible people in charge of that product, and it ultimately ruined it. And I think
Bischoff was the best choice he made. And Bischoff got to a point where he was too cocky because he wanted to ruin WWE. I don't think Tony Khan. I mean, I think Tony Khan is doing a good job. He wants competition. I don't think he's getting to a point where he wants to ruin WWE. I think because he likes WWE. He always liked WWE.
They need each other.
Yeah.
And that's WCW needed WWE. And now that we see what happened, WWE needed WCW just as much, because when you have competition, you have two awesome products. When you don't have competition, you don't have to put any product out. Look at Madden. When Madden had to go up against different NFL football games, it was a great
2K,
game.
man.
Yep.
2K5, like that's probably one of the best Madden football games out there. And it's still better than the games now.
Yeah. And the second they signed that exclusive order where only Madden can have NFL players, they had no reason to get better. And it's still the same video game as 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times people have a gravitate to certain things. For me, like watching AEW is like a breath of fresh air. Like, especially regurgitating Raw for so long and wanting something different. But I think for me, getting into it is when I've been a huge Punk fan. I'm a huge Punk fan for a long time. I guess Dennis had to pop out. So,
just us.
Yeah, it's fine. We could keep going. But for me, for Punk wise, I think it was a big thing because of the fact that I wanted to see something different. I wanted, Punk to come in and just go all out crazy and stuff. So for me, having Punk on AEW programming is huge because it's like it makes me gravitate towards it. It makes things a lot more interesting.
So good at commentary.
He's always been good at commentary. Yeah. He was doing commentary for a long time.
I remember the time he was on Raw. He did commentary for a few months. He was so good then.
They had to give him something to do, and I think
was he hurt
him being on Raw was great.
Was he hurt?
I
probably
think
was,
so.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like Punk was man. What I liked about Punk is before the pipe bomb and before the summer Punk. I actually did like him ECW. It's one of I think the WWE ECW. It's one of the shittiest products they ever produced. Right? That was not ECW, but one of the bright spots is some Punk. I always liked him. When I watched ECW, I wanted to see CM Punk, and then when I saw him on, and I think remember he became champion.
Yeah.
And we cashed on Edge. I think that was a little rushed on Raw. I think they realized it. But when he became champion, and remember he cashed on Jeff Hardy, when Jeff Hardy beat Edge, he cashed on Jeff Hardy. And then he had a credible storyline with Jeff Hardy and then The Undertaker. That's when got me more interested in Punk. Because because Taker, if you get a storyline with Taker like that, it means if you get Taker, you've done something right.
I think for me though, it's just my favorite Punk moment was the pipe bomb, and it's just because that was the first time in wrestling for me, other than obviously the Hell in a Cell with Foley and Taker that a lot of people are fans of, was when you felt like somebody was literally able to say what they've been dying to say for the longest time and never got the chance to. The whole comment about why there are no more WWE ice cream bars, and then all of a sudden Punk comes out on his first Rampage, and there are ice cream bars with Punk's name on it and stuff. I mean, it It's great to see AEW do something that WWE should have done a long time ago. I mean, they should have let Punk go away on his own fruition, not terminating him, and then he would be able to come back healthier. I mean, look at
Yeah.
cases like Edge. They kept Edge coming here and there, and then they let him go, and then he came back.
AEW
Now
listens
what
to
he's
his
doing.
fans.
Oh yeah, that's
AEW
the
listens.
whole point.
WWE used to listen to their fans.
Quote.
They used to. They used to. Remember, like, would you ever thought Mankind would become champion? Like,
I remember that night where I was flipping between,
Yeah.
and it was in Worcester too.
Before that, right? Before
Yeah,
that,
they announced it before it happened.
The fans love Mankind. Vince never saw Mankind. Let's be honest. Even though he was a three-time champion, like Mick Foley, you gotta love that guy. Put his body on the line, but he never saw him as a champion. But he got so
Foley
popular.
is God.
Yeah, he got so popular, especially like during late '98 with Socko and him being and going to the hospital for Vince McMahon got
the bedpan.
Yeah, and the clown, and then he became the champion. And when WCW did the biggest mistake, perhaps the biggest mistake WCW did, I don't blame Tony Schiavone, was tell everybody what happened that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially since it had the DCU Center, it was just one of those things.
Yeah,
another thing in my life I wish I could have gone to. It's for me, it's gonna be one of those things where I'm curious to see what happens next. There's so many names still out there that we have Bound for Glory. Me and Dennis already just talked about it. Go check it out on the other stuff. We tried having
to watch it. I haven't been paying attention to Impact, but I'm gonna try to watch it.
The match between Dennis and Rob, the prediction show just happened right before this. It's on Wicked Crazy Career TV. It had some technical issues with Twitch, so I'm gonna download that and then I'm gonna put it on Twitch later on. But for me though, what's exciting about all this is that it's a fresh. With competition, it'll be a lot better. But I have a feeling that WWE is so used to depending on certain things, like Fox being upset that they don't have enough famous names on there. But when the draft panned down, USA got what they wanted, and they had a lot of
exactly.
And it's like a good example. I say it's like the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing.
Look, Fox once started. With all due respect to Fox, Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I know Sasha's on SmackDown. They're more famous than Charlotte.
I think what it would have made for me and would be a lot more interesting would have been all 4 horsewomen on the same brand at the same time. Now, everybody's like, well, throwback, that would dilute the competition. You'd have 4. The thing about it is that it wouldn't necessarily do that because it would force another brand to make major stars. You could start
the Four Horsemen thing is past. Look, they got some like the Four Horsemen thing, like they're the core, they're the heart of the women's division. I'm sorry, but Bianca Belair is being built. I think Shayna Baszler is being built. They got Rhea Ripley, they got Alexa Bliss. There's more now. There's more to that.
And that's where I was going is that, and I agree with you that they could have taken, Raw and put them all on Friday Night SmackDown and.
Asuka too, can't forget her.
And made Asuka a centerpiece on Raw with Rhea and Alexa, Shayna, and stuff like that. And
Here's something I found on the web. According to mamanatural.com, a variant is shown. Shane is an Irish name meaning God in British.
Alexa, stop.
Oh, yeah, I can't believe that happened.
Only on Wicked Crazy Pinfalls, that stuff happens. And by the way, I have 4 of them in my house right now. So I won't be surprised if all 4 of them decide to go off at the same time. I think for me, though, what it is that if you develop all these people up and build them up, it makes it strong. If you're touting that you have the best women's division in wrestling right now, with Tegan, Shotzi, and all that stuff, and Bianca, why not put them all on one brand that's not NXT? I'm not calling it 2.0 because that's no. It's one of those things where I think you put those people on Raw because it's Monday night. It's an early show. It's not NXT. and it gives them more exposure. It's 3 hours, so you have a lot more talent there on the women's side to give them more matches.
The only focus on the main women, we complained about the women matches being like 2 minutes long. The only time they go like they go longer than like 5 minutes or like 10 minutes is when it's focused on like the main women like Sasha, Charlotte, Becky, and Bianca. That's the only time they go long. That's the only time they're just focused on them.
And that's the problem, though. You need to develop people. You have
hopefully
Shotzi.
Zelina. Do something with Zelina as queen. Do something with that. Push her.
You have Shotzi there with that tank, and you could make her like a bona fide star. You know how many times you could sell tanks, little baby toy tanks to people,
Shotzi,
and make money for it.
Shotzi, because she has character too, and that's very rare.
She's got depth to it too. It's insane. Tegan, you could have Dakota come up and have them feud. We saw it in NXT, but the casual fan that doesn't pay attention to NXT on that main roster could actually do something with it.
I don't know what they're doing to Dakota in NXT because it looks like that woman, whoever that is appearing at Hell in Havoc, it looks like I think it's Dakota.
It could be.
But I agree, she should have been called up.
And then you have like all these people in NXT, like
you have Tony Storm you could build up on the SmackDown roster. Like do that. Like people love Tony Storm.
Yeah, and it's just they don't understand what they have. It's sad. It really is. And if you're saying women's revolution, women's wrestling, and stuff like that, then do something about it. And then instead of being stale.
That's only true when they got caught up in 2015, and for about a year, it was a women's revolution when they had the incredible stuff with Sasha and Charlotte.
It's the same thing when they had Paige in the whole thing too.
Yeah.
So I mean, and if there are rumors and the rumors are true, and Paige might be able to be coming back, and she has that WWE contract still in tow, why not use her?
I don't think they want to use her. I think they're worried about Paige.
I know they're worried about Paige, and if the comments that Bryan Danielson said that it was like, Vince, it was basically like touch and go and stuff, like very protective. I understand that, but if they're medically cleared, and look at Edge, for example. Edge had 3 fused vertebrae on his neck.
And he's much older too when he had that injury.
And then you have Paige, who's younger, who is doing all this stuff. Yeah. It's insane to see it. It's kind of funny too, because
it was only 7 years ago when she was called up. She was like 18 or 19, right, when she got called up. So she's probably like 25 or 26.
She got hurt about 24 or so.
Yeah.
She's a little older than that now. So I think, I'm not 100% sure. I'm always wrong about
2017 is when she got hurt, right?
Yeah.
So she was like 18 or 19. No, she was 18 when she got to WWE. I think she was 19 when she was called up.
Yeah, and when she won the title. So you're looking at maybe about several years later. I think, honestly, if they do something, this is the time to use her. The division itself is still being worked on, but it's very, very stale at this point, just because you're depending too much on all of those and stuff. So eventually, eventually you could do something where situation where you could have Paige tag with Shayna, for example, for a little while, just to get her up and running and get all the rust off.
Or reteam her with Sonya or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and do something where it's literally, the other person takes the majority of the load. Like the whole thing with Icons with Yokozuna, where, Owen took a good chunk of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, we got a special guest coming in.
Yes. Drew.
What's up, bud? How you doing?
Did you hear
I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Well, after last Thursday, I mean, you can be completely in shock of everything that happened with Maggie and stuff. I'm still recovering.
Oh, yeah, that was a great show.
It was a great show. I enjoyed last week. It drove me to drink.
Yeah.
But
okay.
we had.
I like drinking.
Not all the time, though. So, other than that, we had Dennis on earlier. So, you have any
Yeah.
rebuttals towards Dennis? What he said?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Dennis isn't here right now. I guess he had to leave. That's fine. Must have sensed my presence. Uh, First of all, Dennis, I know you're not going to probably hear this because you obviously don't. You obviously don't watch the product because I am not Two Belts Drew anymore. I am not the head of the table. I am not any of that garbage. I am just Drew Nicholas. Big Money Drew Nicholas, as it says, right there.
Or if you look on his Twitter, Blue Money Drew.
Yeah.
Can thank Pluggo for that. But yes, you see, as you see, I used to have a beautiful blue universal title here, but I just have a picture of Kenny Omega now because that's my champion. Okay, I have a Fed dead mug because the Fed is dead, regardless of what happened in Saudi Arabia tonight. Apparently, it was a really good show, but
It was.
Fed dead. Thank you to Joe Hobart and the Distraction people for this one. This one's great. And just for shits and giggles, I bought a Josh Robinson shirt because Josh Robinson is fucking awesome. And Josh Robinson is not Dennis Farrell. Okay? Look at his shirt. Does Dennis Farrell have a nice shirt like this? I don't think so.
We need to get both of you on at the same time again.
Oh yeah.
My point here is that I already know the results of Crown Jewel. Okay? Because
So I watched it.
I didn't watch it because that show fucking sucks. Fuck Crown Jewel, number one.
It's actually a good
Number
show.
two, I mean just, the blood money shit.
And
Fuck
stuff. Yeah, okay, yeah, I agree with.
But I went to my old site, cagesideseats.com, and I happened to look to see who won all those matches before. And I think I picked 9 out of 10, which means that I beat scrawny little Pat Mason's ass. Because
why don't we go through? Let's go through pick. So since you're on and Pat's not on, so let's go through pick and pick. You had Reigns and he had over Brock. You both agreed on that. Who do you had for the women's?
We both had Sasha Banks, so we both lost there.
Yeah. RK Bro retains.
Me.
Woods is king.
Me.
Okay, so you both agreed on that. He says that Shayna lost to Dewdrop. Since then, Shayna, he said, since you picked Zelina, I'll be fair and I'll pick Dewdrop. So there's that win.
Be fair. Don't be fair.
He's like, I guess now that Shayna, I'm going to quote this, and this is from Pat Mason on himself. Check out Pat Mason at Pat Mason 98. Yeah. He's a good guy and always comes on when he can.
He's good.
To quote him, it says, I guess now that Shayna lost to Dewdrop, since I picked Shayna and Drew picks Zelina, I'll be fair and I'll pick Dewdrop to become the queen by pinfall,
Patrick,
I guess.
Listen to me.
So
Do not be
by
fair. Do not be fair.
Big E retains.
It cost you this.
Yeah. Big E retains. Edge, Mansoor, Goldberg by pin, Usos over Cedric. So, with that being said,
but we didn't predict Usos and Cedric and Shelton because I think that came like just a couple of days ago.
That was announced yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't predict that one, but
no,
I picked
that
Edge,
was the pre-show.
Edge won.
Yeah.
I picked Mansoor and Mansoor won. I picked RK Bro. I picked Zelina. I picked Goldberg. I picked Xavier. I picked Big E. And I picked Roman.
You won.
And Pat Mason picked.
He won. He picked. Yeah. So the one match kind of defeated. So in that match, congratulations, bud. You want to go into the next round. So you and Dennis you get closer to get to Dennis, but that's a long road to go.
I'm very eager to find out who my next opponent will be. We'll
Well,
find out soon.
you'll find out soon enough, because the winner between the All Out Love Wrestling Championship for the next second round match will face you.
Who are those people?
Either Spencer Love or Chris Parrish.
And Chris Parrish is the actual wrestler, so he'll probably cut a very
Chris
good promo.
Parrish. That'll be a very interesting one. I kind of hope Chris wins that.
Considering all the trash talking you guys were talking.
It's been a little while. I've gone lenient on Chris for a little bit. We haven't really communicated back and forth for a little while. But, yeah, that would be interesting to see me kick a wrestler's ass.
Well, when I get over to check out Love Wrestling for a lit, I will let them know that you are going to be the person waiting for them anyways. Because now we have... now we have a conundrum, because now we have a triple threat match going on in the next round. In this round, they're going into the second round. So, it's going to be really interesting. And Pluggo called this out, so Pluggo got what he wanted. So it'll be interesting. Plus, I have to look at Kevin's and Teresa's match, because they were one of the second round matches this time around. So, this is what it's going to get down to, because right now, as it stands, I'm hoping we find out if there's a War Games, and if there is, that should be interesting. But Survivor Series is coming down the pike. We've got a couple matches good for that. Royal Rumble's coming out. Wrestle Kingdom's coming out.
Yeah.
And then
look for January 1st or December 31st as a possible pay-per-view for WWE.
Yeah, and basically we keep going down. We got Rumble. Wrestle Kingdom's coming down the pike. Fastlane.
I think Wrestle Kingdom's 3 nights
like that.
changing. Did it change it to 3 nights? I heard
if they are, then that's going to be a long plan because that means I got to start talking to Tad.
I don't know. Why 3 nights? Well, Okada won, so.
But
BC's hurt again.
Well, the G1 Climax is happening right now, and they're in day 20?
It's over. It's over now. Okada won. Okada won. Beat Kota Ibushi, because Kota Ibushi had to. I think he broke his arm.
Damn.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
Yeah.
I saw that he got injured in the.
Yeah, he broke his arm. He got injured. It was actually a broken arm. Yeah. I didn't see the match, but I read online.
Well, it's going to be an interesting way this tournament is, but congratulations, Drew. You did trounce Pat by making one mistake. So usually it is that one mistake that happens. So,
what happened was one mistake cost me my match with the he who shall not be named, and then. One match ends up making me win, so it's like it balances out. It's funny how life works.
But you didn't say you want to be fair, because there's no such thing as fairness in predictions.
Well, Pat's a babyface. That's what happens.
I'm subject to babyface too, but I'm not going to be fair. I want to win.
You're a tweener, so
yeah,
that's how it works. Fairness and. Oh, sure, I'll face you right before my match, even though it'll, make me weaker, and you could, all that babyface garbage.
Well, I'm going to tell Patrick this. Don't be fair next time.
They might be next time, because there is a conversation behind the scenes of something big being planned. So hopefully if that comes down to fruition, something big will be good. This day is interesting enough, but we might as well just swerve for a little bit and talk technology and stuff, because Pixel came out with their new flagship, which I have happened to pre-order. So what do you think about companies now, these like Apple and Google, creating their own chips to sell to just to the masses now, considering that's now becoming the norm for the most part?
They always do.
Go ahead. I'll throw this to you, because you talk more about things like that than I do.
They always do that, right? They always want people like that. People go crazy for that stuff every year. When there's like a new Pixel or whatever, or Apple out there, they always go crazy for that. Every year, like I personally think you don't need to do this every year, but the reason to do this every year is to make more money. But this stuff could last. They could do this realistically. If you really think about it, they could do this every 2 or 3 years. But I understand why they do it every year because of the money. But that's what I feel about it.
I mean, so what phones do you guys primarily use though?
Pixel.
I have the iPhone 11 Pro.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have almost the same thing as Amanda. Okay. For me, more so, I pre-ordered the Pro, Pixel Pro 6 with the 512 hard drive. And stuff, I've had this phone for 2 years, so it's not like I go through phones like water, like a lot of people in the
I
world.
get phones for free.
Yeah, mine's the free upgrade, but you still have to pay the upgrade charge.
No, I get it. 'Cause you know why? I have an uncle who works with telecommunication companies that does cell phones. So I guess that.
You got the hookup, man.
Yeah.
You got to
be
go to
nice.
Toronto. Yeah.
Hmm?
But I mean, for a lot of people, the reason why I'm putting up this is that, and this throws into technology and wrestling and stuff, their belief of all these shortages and stuff like that. A lot of people that I've talked to, not in these industries, but just people in general that come through my work, kind of believe that it's all because of the start with COVID, where everybody was grabbing everything, and now the demand's so high for everything. And it's the same thing with wrestling shows that, some of these sites, people are grabbing tickets like crazy because like AEW shows, and they're selling them out quick compared to WWE, but it's just because the demand is so high for AEW product over WWE. Do you see, like, with live shows, obviously Drew was at Arthur Ashe and stuff like that, do you see like any of those things changing eventually? Because right now, like,
Not
getting a
live
ticket to a
shows.
hockey game is like almost $300 just for nosebleeds right now.
Live shows before the pandemic weren't getting a lot of people either, unless you're in the big cities. I mean, I've been to
I mean,
live shows in Toronto.
WWE, I
Yeah,
think I had just saw Wrestle Ticks like 2 days ago or something like that on Twitter. They had actually posted, I
I,
think it was on Monday actually, they had posted that WWE for the UBS Arena in Long Island, the same one that AEW is going to, they actually lowered the prices for their, I
yeah,
think it's Raw that's going there.
yes, I believe so.
They actually lowered the prices
I
because people weren't buying tickets to that show.
look, look what happened. You want to know something? WWE is coming back to Toronto in December, right, for their holiday tour, like that's 29th. So
Mhm.
last 2 years ago, 2019, when I went to WWE, right, I got floor seats, $172, right? So I checked the seats around the same area for this live show, $117.
For floor
So 60
seats?
bucks cheaper. Yeah. For the same
Lord.
set for the same area where I sat 2 years ago. So $60 cheaper.
Well, AEW's been doing a lot better in the ticket sales lately,
Yeah.
as we can see. So,
I mean, can you blame them with the talent they have, actually? So, I mean, it's insane how like all this stuff is panning out. Tony Khan's basically forcing Vince to actually do something he never has done. Like Dennis
WWE
said,
WWE like a Raw and SmackDown shows. They purposely make sure certain sections of arenas have no tickets to sell arenas are completely empty. Especially for SmackDown. When I've been to SmackDown in Toronto, SmackDown has more seats non-available than Raw.
damn.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. Like if you go to Fenway too, because it's like if you look out in center field, they canopy majority of those seats out for certain games, but it's just interesting to see how it all pans out. Especially how like WWE is now losing ground in certain sales. I guess to quote Vince or whoever was on that queue, whatever which one it was, that I guess Sleep's winning over their
Yeah.
general audience right now.
Let's see. Let me.
well, it's because WWE sucks. That's why. So, What can I say?
especially with holidays, I know a lot of people are not asking for WWE merchandise because it's so high. Like, it's interesting for me because at the end of the day, I'd rather spend gifts on something else than just, a shirt now because of how everything is. It's absurd because they need to fix certain aspects of their programming and they're not listening.
No. I think before I jumped on here, you guys were talking about, or maybe when Dennis was on, you guys were talking about how they don't listen to the fans like they used to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
look at what
that's after
AEW
Dennis.
did. Look at what AEW just did today. A couple of days ago, they announced they were partnering with Susan G. Komen. A whole backlash on Twitter came about.
Oh, Punk, because Punk said something about that years ago.
They took it off. And today they announced they're gone with a different organization. WWE would never do that.
No. Otherwise, they would back out of this deal with Saudi. But it's costing them billions. It's making
Exactly.
billions.
Which
And
apparently
speaking,
I heard some story today that some sort of Saudi Arabian, I don't know if it was a politician or a reporter, was supposedly just today found out that the prince, or whatever the hell his name is, was going to kill him.
Oh,
Congrats. But I saw Alex Pulowski was like, oh, this happened, but, Matt Riddle got to ride a camel today. So,
yeah.
I bet Susie just didn't want to have him on her humps. Jeez. Other than that, I mean, we have passed the hour and stuff like that. Not as insane, a little subdued compared to last week, where Drew and Maggie literally lit it up, literally and proverbially. It's been a good couple of days. And speaking of Susan G. Coleman and cancer and stuff, we will be doing a show on the 18th of November. I'm going to put out there and open it to it and put a website on there for the National Cancer Society, and then I'm going to do put the site on there on the ticker right there, right on the bottom in front of Drew, where you can put money in a donation and stuff like that to either to the National Cancer Society, who helped my mom greatly with hats and stuff like that, or even to the Dana-Farber Society research for cancer and stuff like that here for Boston and stuff like that. They do a lot with families around the world and stuff. They even fly some of them in to help kids that have cancer and stuff and let them stay there and put them up overnight and keep them there. Jimmy Fund, same thing. There's so many foundations. And the point of the matter of the show is that we're going to talk about our experiences with people we know who've had cancer, people who have dealt with cancer, or people who have lost somebody from cancer. And I think that's an important thing because, like I say it every time, do a good deed, pay it forward. And hopefully getting more awareness, people being interested to find out about these things, what type of cancers can affect certain people and what they do. And it might help somebody that actually, like, for a woman that needs a mammogram to find out if she has cancer, or hasn't been feeling great and feels like there's something wrong, or the doctors say that they need a biopsy and you just want to be there for emotional support. I can speak for myself. Cancer is a pain in the ass with losing a loved one to it, but it's also an education tool where you can teach people how to deal with certain things, and people who have survived with that, it's more so for them to talk about it too. So November 18th, it'll be a Thursday. It's going to be the 70th birthday of my mom the next day. So, I know everybody's like six. He's talked about his mom. There's certain milestones in a person's life you have to take. So for me, this is therapy for me, So yeah, even if you have a friend or a partner or significant other that's gone through something, have them come on here and talk about them in the chat, and have them be like, hey, this guy who's, a wrestling fan, and that's how we all connect with each other. So I'll put it on there on Twitter, put it out there and say everybody's welcome to come on if they want to pop on and talk about it. Also working on some stuff too. And then we still have the tournament to go, and Drew's next opponent will be eventually found out. So we're just gonna end it on a positive note and talk about like good things. So I appreciate you guys. Like I said last week, you guys are family to me. Everybody in the chat for the show and stuff like that, and over the last year and everything. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Aaron, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on my YouTube channel, Aaron World Order. I do content on wrestling, sports, pop culture, whatever. Like I do a variety of stuff. And you can follow my Twitter at Aaron J's Fan. Just type in my name and then J's Fan, and yeah.
All right, Drew, tell them where they can find you.
At Big Money Drew on Twitter, the best and worst place to be.
We got, like I said, a bunch of great stuff coming down the pike. I mean, the cancer show to make people more aware of it. Just the holidays are coming up, so I mean, do something important. If somebody needs a coffee, or like if you're in Brooklyn and you see Drew needing a toe and you have AAA, stuff like that. Do something to help other people.
I gotta worry about who that person is. They might tow me over to the ocean.
I'm glad you're safe from yesterday.
Tony D'Angelo will be.
Tony D'Angelo, yeah.
Well, it ain't no Tom Hardy, that's for sure, between you and Maggie. So, but the thing is that the gist is just try to do something to make somebody else's day. Because you never know. That person could be having the most shittiest day in the world, and that one good deed you do changes the course of their day. Other than that, find you. You guys can find me where usually on the place that Drew says is the worst place. Oh, wait a minute! Someone decides to pop in the last.
I said
let's see what Anakin.
Best and worst. Not
King Woods.
What?
That just
what did he even say?
King Woods.
Oh, he's happy Xavier won. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Anakin.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, that was like a really bad drive-by that happened. Like literally, yeah. No. Other than that, you can find me. You can find Anakin JNT, and then you can find me on Throwback978 on the Twitter. Check out, comment, like, and subscribe on the YouTube. We're going to be changing the name and stuff like that. For Mod, he's going to be like, oh, shut up. No. And then I'll be working on changing the name to the Twitch to make it a lot easier, considering Anakin is complaining about how there's too many numbers. So other than that, thanks guys for being on. Drew, thank you for hopping on. Thank you, Dennis Farrell from Wrestling Perspective. Check him out. He's got some amazing stuff. He dropped an exclusive interview that he's going to be doing soon. So go over to Wicked Crazy Crew TV and check out what he said for the Bound for Glory prediction show. Other than that,
I'm not watching his product because he doesn't watch my product. Okay.
Well, do a good deed, pay it forward. Have a good night, guys. Anakin.
Hey, guys.
Yeah. Bye.